Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Liu. I am the CEO of a company called Mantis Group and the co-founder of Filling the Gap. I'm really happy to see you here today, bright and early, for another Filling the Gap gathering. Thank you for coming. Just some quick housekeeping. The bathrooms are in that hallway on your way in that you had to strut down. So if you need to find it, it's just over there to the right. Also, just a quick thank you to Intuit. I don't know if Guy is still in the room, but they've given us this beautiful space for free. So it's really important that just want to make sure we thank them for the hospitality. For those of us joining for the first time, Filling the Gap is a community that bridges worlds of tech, data, marketing, and equity. We bring together leaders, builders, and thinkers to have an honest conversation about how we create impact, not just in business, but in the systems we build and the people we serve. We were founded over 10 years ago, and we're extremely proud of the work that we've done since then. Some of you, I think Jing was saying, she came to our very first one almost 10 years ago. Each of our events support the Barbara Schleifer Commemorative Clinic. So if you don't know, the Barbara Schleifer Commemorative Clinic is a Toronto-based organization that provides legal counseling and interpretation services to women, gender diverse, and non-binary survivors of violence. So every single coffee that you've had this morning is in support of that. So thank you. Before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee, as well as the Wendat peoples, and now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. This land covered by Treaty 13 has always been a place of meeting and exchange. We honor the Indigenous communities who have cared for it for generations and acknowledge our shared responsibility to build respectful relationships moving forward. This morning's conversation, Making It Personalized, sits at the intersection of data, creativity, and human connection. It's about how we use technology to see people more fully, not as data points, but as individuals with intent, emotion, and agency. As leaders in marketing, product, and customer experience, our challenge isn't just to personalize content, it's to personalize care, it's to scale empathy, and to bring humanity back into our systems. And we couldn't ask for more of a dynamic group to unpack that this morning with us. So, our moderator this morning is Saad Uddin, CEO of Native Touch and Candy Banners. He's an active angel investor across media and technology. Saad has spent more than 15 years building in the digital space, leading teams and companies that shape how brands connect with people every day. Hopefully, he's sharp, funny, and thoughtful today. The perfect guide for our conversation. Yeah, a little nudge. Jing Zhao is the Director of Performance Marketing at Pet Valu. Jing, you want to give everyone a quick little wave? Thank you. Where she leads media strategy and investment across Canada. Jing has a deliberate strategic approach, the kind that blends tech and creativity to truly drive omnichannel growth. Saad, I'm excited for you to ask Jing about where she sees innovation going next. So another nudge. Liam Thurston. Liam. Hi, Liam. Who leads personalization at Loblaw Digital, helping Canada's largest retailers serve 40 million customers like a best friend. He's shipped digital products for Shopify, Wealthsimple, Audi, and Bloomberg, and brings both humor and humanity to everything he does. Equal parts proud dad, mediator, and maker. Liam's heart on the sleeve rolled up approach is all about making human experiences that matter. Welcome, Liam.
Thank you.
Jennifer O'Brien, Jen, is the VP of Strategic Global Initiatives at Sitecore, where she helps global enterprises design strategies for connection and growth. She also co-founded Be Uninterrupted, supporting women professionals with actionable advice when it matters most. Jennifer brings a global and grounded perspective, so I'm super excited to hear what she's seeing that scales globally. Last but not least, Sarah Bugeja, Head of Marketing at Certn, helping organizations hire and onboard with confidence at scale. Sarah's had over 15 years of experience scaling multiple startups to acquisition. She's led Later's global marketing team, shaping how millions of businesses show up on social, and knows how to make growth happen fast without the corporate fluff. So with that, Thank you. And thank you all for being here and choosing to start your day today in community and for supporting Filling the Gap and the Schleifer Clinic through your presence and participation. Please join me in welcoming Saad and our incredible panelists for this morning's panel.
Thanks, Janice. Good morning, everybody. What's a panel about personalization without some data collection, right? I have to be hilarious, so that was my attempt. We're gonna go through a rapid fire session first to kick it off, and we'll go from left to right and then come right back. Jen, kick it off for us. Which city did you grow up in?
Halifax.
Oh, should I just answer the question on the page? Or is it, I grew up in Toronto. Just throwing that out there.
For me, it's Xi'an, China, and then Toronto.
Nice one. I'm going to pause this for 1 second. I've been using GPT for almost 3 years, like the rest of us. And so that product and company knows the most about me of any digital business. So I'm going to give you my answer and GPT's answer to these rapid fire questions. GPT says, Toronto. My answer is Ottawa. I grew up in the nation's capital.
All right, and what was your first job / role in marketing?
Starting at this end?
Yeah, come right back.
GPT says, design. Close. I built my high school's website in 1992, designed and built from scratch, aging myself.
Dog book and cat book. So coming full circle, because now it's Pit Value.
I was an intern at Warner Brothers.
Ooh.
I worked for an e-commerce company and brought Walmart into Canada.
Jen, what was your favorite job?
So I'm an eternal optimist. I thought about this thoughtfully, and there were parts of every role that I've had that I really loved. So all of them.
Working at Sears Canada, not a joke.
Oh,
True
yeah.
story.
Wow. Canadian
Rest in peace.
classic.
The job that I have now, and my boss is not in the audience, I can see.
But we'll send it to him.
On the record. GPT says, leading personalization at Loblaw Digital, which is what my boss wants to hear. But the answer is actually drawing kids' books for Scholastic in the early 2000s. Very fun job, but I was broke as hell, so now I work in tech.
Personalization, creepy or convenient? The right answer is convenient, but be honest.
Yes. GPT and I both say both.
Convenient, can't live without it.
Both.
Capital C, convenient, unless I feel like I'm being watched and it gets weird.
Jen, would you let a brand read your texts if it meant 100% perfect personalization?
Hell no.
No.
Yeah, absolutely no.
GPT says no, but I'm loose like that, and I say yes.
I was going to say yes also. What's more important, privacy or relevance?
GPT says privacy and relevance.
Privacy.
Privacy.
Relevance.
What's one brand that's doing personalization right?
OpenAI.
Nike.
Netflix.
Surprised GPT didn't say OpenAI. It gave me Amazon. I'm like a little rough around the edges, very personalized, but I'm going to say Instagram Reels has got me shopping every single time.
Liam, one brand that's totally failing at personalization.
Gosh, there are many. I'm going to say Amazon for that same reason. It's just, no offense to my Amazon heads in the room. Yeah. And GPT says Meta. Competition in the system.
Target.
The banks.
That's why I have Target as well. I mean, who can forget the
Right? Yeah.
the personalization around
coupons?
pregnancy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was thinking about the pregnancy, them notifying the families.
Baby coupons for
Yeah.
the teenager.
Yeah. Okay.
Same mind.
Oh man, the drama. All right, if personalization disappeared tomorrow, would consumers notice?
Yes. Exclamation mark.
Maybe some would.
For sure.
GPT and I both say yes.
And then last one, Liam, kick it off for us. What's scarier, being ignored or being over-targeted?
We both say ignored.
Both are really bad and they're extremes.
Being ignored.
Being ignored.
Great, thanks. Now we have 10 data points on everyone here.
I'll just quickly put those back into GPT for us.
You'll be seeing relevant ads indefinitely now. Jen, what are you seeing globally? At Sitecore, your global organization working with global enterprises, are there any trends or patterns that the best brands are doing that we should know about when it comes to personalization and preparing for the AI wave?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big things that we're seeing is organizations getting their data in order, because I don't think unless you have your data unified that you're going to be able to achieve what you're trying to do, which ties right into more of an omni-channel experience, right? So we see globally the best brands, Emirates, Qatar, Penny Gaming, I think I'm getting that wrong, they're in Ireland, but really bridging the gap across all channels, whether it's, someone in a casino not having a great game and someone walking up to them saying, hey, how would you like to go to a show? Get away from the table. So I think the MarTech stack, simplifying the MarTech stack, really unifying your data, making sure that it's connected in a way that you can deliver omni-channel experiences. And I think relevancy is a big topic for organizations as they, I come from the tech side of it, as they're thinking about their technology, really focus on relevance.
So the starting point really is getting your house in order as it relates to data.
Correct.
How many, how out of the customers you work with and what you're seeing in the market, how many brands actually gotten to that stage where they have the data in order and they can move to personalization?
Yeah, yes, I would say that some do. And I think organizations have been working on this for a long time.
Okay. And then if you think about globally, there's a lot of pressure coming from one government suing Meta for misuse of data, or different platforms are being sued for all sorts of different reasons in terms of misuse of data or poor collection of data. Are there specific learnings you have from a global perspective that Canadian marketers should keep in mind?
Well, I would say that it's been 18 months and the regulators just showed up. And I do think that they underestimated the issues around data and control and privacy. And I think with Bill C-27 and ADA and some of the things that are happening, I think it's important. I also believe that helps build trust in consumers, that our governments and regulators know what's going on. And I think there's some provincial regulations, but I do think that, they're catching up, but they're a little behind.
Fair. Thanks, Jen. Liam and Jing, Loblaws and Pet Value do a lot of dominating the retail and online space, being omnichannel marketers and omnichannel retail environments. As the head of personalization and head of performance marketing, respectively, do you think personalization is actually driving incremental revenue, or is it just table stakes? Is it something we're all telling ourselves that we're doing while chasing vanity metrics?
Jing, you want to get us started?
Sure. As a consumer myself, I love when the content I see is personalized. So it's, you're scrolling through Netflix or YouTube, everything you see is kind of personalized to what you like or people similar to you like. So, it makes discovery so much easier. There was a time when, I had to use my husband's YouTube account and then the feed was like full of computers, mouse, and like gaming commentary. I don't understand that to this day, but it's a huge market. So, and then I'm like, I gave it back. So I think, to that end, when the content that you see is not personalized, if it's all random, I would just cancel my premium account, right? So I think, the real value of personalization is how do we deliver value to the customer in a very relevant way. So it's a long-term value exchange with the consumer. And at Pet Value, it's I think it's great that part of the company's genes and genetics and DNA is all about how do we kind of deliver services beyond pushing products to the customers. As an example, we launched a weather-triggered email program for our customers last year. So 2 to 3 days before a major storm would hit in your local region, you would get an email. It's only delivered to dog customers, and it has the subject line said, "Be snowstorm ready." And because everybody's talking about there's a snowstorm coming, it's relevance, it gets noticed. And then in the email, there's tips on how to dress your dog for these extreme cold weather. So the content is relevant. It's not just pushing products, but we also have, what do you need for your dog in these extreme cold days, like a jacket or like booties and like light up collars, so people can actually see them when you walk them in the evening. So I think like these are the things that make personalization work. And as a result, we see how well they perform. Like open rates, engagement rates are like double our other emails. So I think when the business kind of starts with the intention of how do we kind of deliver value to the customer, it does work, and we do see it in the data.
Okay, so the metrics that you're capturing are of value. You're able to make decisions with them. What do you look for when the metrics are going sideways? And what do you do about it? For example, with this kind of campaign that you mentioned.
It hasn't gone sideways just yet, thank God.
Killer, amazing.
But I think we would be monitoring the key metrics and then kind of assessing, is this not relevant for our customers anymore, right? Or should we kind of be more personalized because online at Pet Value, our customers have their online accounts, and then some of them create their pet's profile. So we also have their dog's breed, their age. So, and I think as a business, we have to start with, knowing your dog's breed and their size, how do we deliver more relevant products? Because, a dog bed for Chihuahua will not be great for if you have a Great Dane, right? So when metrics are kind of seeing slow down, then we assess, what's that causing by, and from there, I think it's never a straight line, but sometimes it takes a few iterations, right?
So they're not vanity metrics, they're more so proxy metrics.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Liam.
Yeah, thanks, Jing. Great answer. I think when we face personalization at Loblaw Digital, we've been personalizing things for 5+ years, but really in earnest the past 2. It's been a real investment. And personalization for most businesses is a supply and demand problem. So if I was to personalize an experience for every single person in this room, I'd need to scale my operation to create custom creative or assortments or whatever for each and every one of you. And so when we face that problem at Loblaw, we look at scaling creative is one bucket and scaling merchandising is another bucket. Creative, we've all played around with Nano Banana. It's not really, a lot of creative tools are not quite ready for prime time in real time for real customers within rules and regs of brand safety. There are ways we use it. There are ways we can dynamically generate creative that is within the realm of safe. But what we do have is a vast amount of supply on the merchandising side. So Loblaw, excuse me, your favorite corner store, your favorite grocery store, I know it. Across every grocery banner, Shoppers Drug Mart and Joe Fresh sells like almost everything you could possibly buy in a week. And so that supply is massive. So we actually pivoted our efforts about 8 months ago towards personalizing on the merchandising side. So the role that we play there is giving each person in this room a custom aisle or four within their online grocery experience that reflects back to you exactly your purchase history, your preferences, your dietary needs, etc. And so within that aisle, we can blend exploitation, which is encouraging you to buy things you've bought before, and exploration, which is nudging you into things that you wouldn't have bought before. We've found sort of a sweet spot in that blend where if we open with a few products that you bought before, you're more likely to engage with the discovery products and add them to cart. So, and from a metrics and measurement perspective, it's been an incredibly successful approach. We follow your standard e-commerce core metrics, add to carts, click-through rates, frequency, retention, things like that. And we've seen growth in like almost the 300, 400 bips range on click-through rates and add to carts for these personalized assortments. So the signals are real, the shopping behavior is high. It's like imagine walking into the grocery store and you had an aisle for Janice that was just for you. The first few products in that aisle were things you always buy, and then the rest of the aisle looked a lot like things you'd be interested in. And it's working wonders and driving massive business value. So that merchandising play is solid, and we're iterating on it and expanding it, increasing the intelligence there. Essentially what we do is we look at everybody's transaction history and we infer what they might like to buy next or what their preferences might be. Fairly obvious, but through e-commerce channels, you've given us express consent to use that data, and so we're able to use it to sort of create a custom profile for each and every one of you in this room. So no longer is the one-to-many segment approach really our current focus. It's now one-to-one personalization from an assortment perspective, and we're growing into more of the marketing and messaging side of things at a one-to-many.
That's awesome. So you guys are deep in personalization, and it's working. The metrics show it, the business results show it. Being from a creative background, however, do you feel like heavy personalization kills the creativity?
Yeah, I have feelings about that. I've spent most of my career in design, and so it's certainly, there is risk there. However, like I say, when you're trying to address the supply and demand problem, if you train or prompt the hell out of any tool in order to create the best creative outputs with a human in the loop, there is a way to sort of amplify creative standards at scale. We're still solving that problem, but I think that there is some tension there. I won't lie, right? If those automatically generated, dynamically personalized assortments perform better than our manually curated merchandising team's assortments do, of course there's tension there. But it creates competition. So it means that now those merchandising teams are working harder to assort and personalize and create the best assortments that can compete with the more heavily personalized parts of our experiences. So creativity killer, no. But certainly a creativity challenger, I think, definitely raises the bar for everybody.
Can you give us an example as to when personalization has actually failed in one of your experiments?
Oh, I have so many. Gosh. Okay, I guess I'll give you an internal sort of political dynamic example. Maybe some of you have experienced things like this. But we wanted to run a banner test. Everybody loves their hero banners. I wish I could get rid of those, and we will, because now our whole pages are personalized and the hero banner goes wherever the customer needs to see it. But regardless, we wanted to see if we could drive category level engagement with hero creative. And so instead of setting up a photo shoot for the 135 L1 categories we have across all grocery businesses and setting up shoots and products and things like that, we generated all those within brand safety and by training prompts or by training the image model with our brand safe images. And we created a giant set of category images that were fairly generic. Here's the dairy section, here's the bread section, here's the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera section. Beautiful, very, very nice photography, but all fake. And so it performed middling, customers were sort of lukewarm on it, didn't really drive anything, but internally it created a lot of tension because our teams were like, oh shit, that was the photography manager's job to set up those shoots, and 3 months of cost and effort was sunk into a couple hours on GPT or whatever we used for that. And so we had to sort of go back to the drawing board and negotiate how we approach that with the creative teams. You know, do we do a smaller shoot to train and then use that shoot to expand? That's sort of our current approach, but it certainly failed from an internal perspective because all of a sudden teams were like, take those banners down. They were made by a machine. What the hell are we doing? And it's like, well, I mean, we're just trying something new. Very experimental. Test and learn.
Love it. So Sarah, thanks, Liam. Sarah, looking at coming from the experiences Liam's mentioning around Loblaws, they have. I love the way he mentioned the supply and the demand part of it. At Certn, you don't have that supply part of it, right? You don't have that much merchandise. So looking at personalization, how do you address that? And you have to be more scrappier because you don't have as much demand coming in the same way.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of make some distinctions also between different kinds of creative. So there's creative in a retail environment, which is, you know, physically you have, I actually was part of the original team at Loblaw Digital. I've had the privilege of working there and other retailers in the past. And, you know, there's your end cap creative, the creative that you see in aisles, the creative that you see in stores, and then the digital versions of that. So I guess a hero banner kind of counts as that. And so that's one kind of creative that historically you have production designers pump out en masse based on photo shoots that are done in-house or out of house. So that's one kind of creative. I think it's really important to make a distinction between that kind of creative and more of the advertising creative you see in terms of ads on YouTube, digital out-of-home banners that you see on the street, bus shelters, etc. Right? Like these are all different kinds of creative that I think it's really important to make the distinction between what kind of creative power they require. And I think that they're different. And so I want to make that distinction real quick because what I think we've seen ChatGPT and other models be able to do really well falls into more of that production type creative versus the ideas that stick with people that people have to think about and remember. And those are a little bit different or vastly different depending who you ask. And I don't know that they can compete with each other yet. In the Certn world, so we run background checks, financial checks, and identity verification. So we make sure you don't hire someone with a criminal record. And if you're hiring a CFO, we make sure that they haven't declared bankruptcy in the past 12 years. So it's very much a part of the hiring process that I think everyone has gone through. And so we have the demand, but the personalization is different because it depends on the role that someone's hiring for. And in our world, it's a product-led growth world. We don't play with the same kind of resources that direct-to-consumer businesses play with. And so we have to be much more creative and thoughtful. And frankly, we don't always use machines to emulate personalization. We're literally doing it client by client because we're also sales-led, and our clients, such as Loblaw, have hundreds of thousands of employees, right? So we're making sure that we're connecting with our customer at a one-to-one level to making sure that they're getting the best experience they can with our software.
Great. And then when you look at that type of a customer base, although your approach to personalization will be different, it's all built on data collection, right? And if you think about as a consumer and as a practitioner in the space, most consumers don't understand or control how their data is used. Do you think that as an industry, we're exploiting that ignorance?
Absolutely. Without a question. I think, look, there's always a Wild West phase of new digital products. We experienced it in digital advertising as someone who back in the day, bought display banners on individual websites, which is like the most archaic thing in retrospect. It was because at the beginning of all of these phases, there are no rules yet. And so governments haven't caught up, which we've addressed before, and they always eventually catch up. But there's this phase where consumers don't know enough, governments haven't interfered enough, and then basically all the marketers have all the fun for a period of time until the rules come. And so I think we're in that phase right now where there's a lot we can take advantage of because the rules aren't there yet and there are no confines. And for me, it's my favorite stage of tech because we get to play and try new things and get a slap on the wrist versus, I don't know, a major injunction from a government. And you get to see what's possible. And then that changes inevitably, and then something else comes along. So I think we're just in that phase. And it's really important to take advantage of that phase as a marketer because there's so much opportunity. And then, something like a Cambridge Analytica happens and then everything changes. And then the power goes away. And I think that's just where we're at. And unfortunately, consumers don't know enough yet. And we're not the ideal consumers, right? We're not normal when you're in the environment. You think that this is normal because we're marketers. We're talking about, people who are normal consumers who their day jobs aren't in marketing. And I think as marketers, we have to remember that we're not marketing to ourselves.
So there's a gold rush right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like how tech was a gold rush until like the cheap money stopped, and now you have to like prove results and ROI and stuff.
Love it. Jing, what do you think? Are you on the same page? Are we taking advantage of it, or do you think it's kind of clear for consumers?
I think like the industry has been kind of built on the fact that most consumers don't know exactly that their data is collected and how it's used. I mean, just thinking about my parents, right? Like my dad has like absolutely no idea, even though I tell him because I'm work in this industry. But my mom, on the other hand, like she doesn't save her passwords or like bank, like she doesn't even give her, credit card information or save it. Because she thinks that, it's being misused or, so she's like the extra cautious. So I think like people are in a different, like on a spectrum, but either way, people don't know what data is being collected and how they're used. And I think like there absolutely needs to be laws and guardrails for businesses. But like my view is that it's not enough that there's laws and regulations. So like the cookie consent banner, castle, that's just the basic steps. But I think like as businesses, we need to ask ourselves, like, are we really serving the interest of the customer or using the data to manipulate them into buying? So, some businesses I've seen in the past have like scarcity. So one left in stock in your size, right? So things like that, they use the data that you provide them against you to trick you into kind of buying more when you don't really need it. So I think like it's those scenarios that as a business that we really need to kind of prioritize. We're there to serve the customers and not to only think about revenue.
Yeah, can I jump on that one? I think like in this Wild West phase, it's so important to sort of revert to your human instincts of care for your customer and really default to transparency and control. And so, we're in a fairly highly regulated business at Loblaw, and of course there's a lot of scrutiny from privacy and legal on everything we're doing. So we have to hold a high standard, and we're looking at terms and conditions and privacy standards across the entire business all the time. But before those rules are mandated or set at large by our government or, standardized, the best we can do is tell our customers exactly how, why, and when we're collecting their data and what we're doing for them with that data. And so the example for us is when we do these grocery assortments, we say, this is based on your weekly shopping habits and what you usually buy. Click here to edit those preferences and give the customer control to then opt out or turn off privacy or turn off data collection, things like that. And so we're working on an entire suite of tools that puts the control back in the customer's hand and working as much as we can in the interface with language to sort of educate customers about what the value is to them. Because ideally, that assortment is so good that you don't want to turn it off, but you always have the option to. And so I think that, without rules in place, let's just be human beings about it and treat each other respectfully.
So would you say that by doing or heading down that direction, you're not taking advantage of consumers' ignorance?
I don't feel we are at all. No, we're being descriptive and literal about it, and we're being helpful. And we're not sort of like engineering anything to be, the scarcity example is great. We shy away from that kind of stuff like crazy. We try to be deliberately honest about what's in stock, what's out of stock, what's on the shelf, what's not, et cetera, so that we're not driving artificial demand.
Can I add to that real quick? I think at the end of the day, you have to remember in a direct-to-consumer business, the retailer's job is to sell things. And so whether or not they're merchandising in the store or they're merchandising online, the goal, the outcome is to sell product. And so I think whether or not it's done through a personalization vehicle because digital allows for that, or if it's merchandised in a certain way because the store aisles are set up in a way to get you to go through the whole store, you're trying to drive the same outcome and you're trying to sell product, and it's a choice whether or not you participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's inherently bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as consumers get to make the decision whether or not they buy things.
Okay, can I add one thing? I mean, I'm feeling left out. I also really believe that there is a certain amount of digital literacy that's required, and that people have to take responsibility for their own digital literacy. We've been talking about digital for a long time, and so I believe that's important. And I also believe there are ways, and the financial services organizations, I would suggest, do it the best that I've seen personally about educating their consumers, their clients around digital literacy. But I think you, on some level, at this day and time, you have to take responsibility for your own digital literacy.
So just bringing it back to you, Jen, as a tech company, you're seeing a lot of different companies use your tech differently. And I imagine a good part of the pitch is when you get the creative and tech to work together in harmony. Do you have an example, sort of like a best case that you've seen that you'd like to share?
Sure, and then I thought of another one, but I'll go through this one really quick. Nestle. So about 2 years ago, Nestle, Sitecore, and Microsoft partnered together, and Microsoft has these innovation hubs. So we partnered together really to dig deep into how could AI solve some of their challenges. They have almost 300 brands. It's very complex. Their time to market was very slow. There was a lot of confusion for their clients and in the market. And so we worked closely together with them. And this was launched about 18 months ago, the first co-pilot for all of their marketers. So every marketer had a co-pilot. And when you were launching a campaign, all of the messy middle of approvals and is this on brand and does it meet the compliance regulations, all of that was automated through AI with the brand co-pilot. So they were much more effective and efficient in what they were doing. And then we took it a step further and started using agents, so full agentic execution of the content supply chain. And it's been very effective. And we actually have part of the problem that we were looking to solve was the degradation of the creative and what happens. And so in building out the AI co-pilots and the agentic execution of the content supply chain, we were able to maintain the creative, but at the same time, they went from 2 campaigns on a brand potentially per year to 20. And it really unlocks, I think at the end of the day, agentic AI will really unlock the personalization that we've been talking about for many years. So,
Thanks, Jen. And is that what you're most excited about as it relates to AI and an agentic future?
So I have one more example that I was thinking about in that last conversation. So I work with a lot of U.S. healthcare organizations, and they're fundamentally different than ours. So I've spent the last 18 months getting very familiar with them. And one of the ways that they're using AI and agentic AI is really to serve their patients in a fundamentally different way and move care further upstream so that people aren't ending up in hospitals, in urgent care centers. And it's been highly effective. And for me, that was exciting to see the metrics and the numbers on, and the stories, quite frankly, of people that are on Medicare or Medicaid in the US and don't have private health insurance. And, oh, what if I end up there? Oh, well, guess what? If we actually educate you further upstream and target personalization for you for a myriad of reasons, then you could avoid ending up there. So that to me was that was great.
Nice. Just because we're running out of time, I'm going to move right to the last question, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Where do you see personalization headed towards in the world of AI and agentic? Jen, you kind of spoke about that a little bit. And what are you most excited about in your role to be able to enable that in the future? Liam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think we have a unique advantage at Loblaw, and I'm very privileged to get to serve Canadians through that company. And I think bringing together all of the resources we have in our ecosystem for every Canadian is a confounding and very complicated problem to solve. So, if we see that perhaps through visits with the pharmacist, you might have a certain health condition, we should be able to then help you shop for that diet and maybe follow up with, the right recommended RMT or physiotherapist recommendation or a service that we can provide as a business. Right now, we force that work back on the customer. You go to the grocery website, you go into the pharmacist, you go into all these separate places. And I think in a world not too far from now, we'll be able to tie together the entire ecosystem in a connected way that makes sure that you're benefiting not just from buying things from Loblaw, but also being served by Loblaw through content and services that you might not know exist. And so that's where sort of the regulation and privacy stuff comes up for us, because we have a large healthcare offering that is of course siloed from a data perspective. And so we're learning how to make sure that we can personalize based on what we know about your health without overstepping or overusing data, but doing it in a very helpful way. I mean, the whole intent of personalization is to help each and every one of us live a better life. And so, being able to do that, bring the entire organization to bear in a personalized way throughout a journey that's individual for a parent or a senior or a student or someone new to Canada, is something that only personalization can unlock for us. Every store is the same format. It doesn't change. The aisles don't change. Of course, they do week over week. There's new products, but it's so hard to change the shape and size of a store you walk into. It's so easy for us to change the shape and size and assortment and experience you get in a digital product and make it highly, highly personalized. And so I see a future in the next year to 18 months where each and every one of us are opening essentially a different version of the business we want to shop with. And that version is personalized completely to us from a content, product, and services perspective. Super exciting. I can't wait. Shipping in 2026.
Can't wait for a personalized pharmacy.
Totally.
I think for me, in the industry, one-to-one personalization has been, the topic for a very long time, but it's incredibly hard, especially for retailers. And I've seen very few or next to none who can do it really, really well on a true one-to-one level. It's mostly segments, right? You kind of market to segments. And it takes a lot to truly personalize that experience on a one-to-one level because, as Liam has mentioned before, you have to create, the 100 different versions of an email that you're going to send, and then also the assortment that goes with each of those different creatives. It's a lot of manual efforts. So where I see, agentic AI will really help the team is really to kind of take out the manualness from all of that process and to do that work, for the team. So that the team can then focus on, drawing out the use cases, the business cases, and then focusing on the strategy instead of all the manual work on creating 100 or 200 different versions of an email.
I think in my world, in a product-led growth software business, and similar businesses just the same, it really is about taking advantage of the user behavior and really deeply understanding the actions that they're taking within your environment. And whether that is in-product notifications or toasts celebrating something that they completed, or beyond that from a trigger perspective, making sure that the emails line up with the exact action that they're trying to accomplish and take. Although, the scale may not be as large as what it would be in a world of retail, I think there's still a lot of information and data when you think about some of your favorite software, whether it's Asana, Monday.com, or Dropbox, or anything that plays in that product-led growth world, there's a lot of information to ingest. And then right now, we're still at a place where we need some humans to decode that. But what I'm most excited to see is how we start to automate that. A lot of tech companies are tech at the front and people behind, still trying to figure out how to do everything, and then we build it as we go along. And so I'm excited to see how that evolves as things do become more automated and truly AI-driven based on actual learnings.
What was the question?
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but where do you see personalization headed towards in the world of AI and agentic? And what are you most excited about in your role to be able to enable that?
So I'm most excited about the ability really for that one-to-one personalization. I think that will give people incredible agency in terms of, and give them time back in their life, right? I mean, the fact that ChatGPT really knows who I am, I have a digital twin, and it gives me an enormous amount of time back. So I think that's where personalization is going, and I think a lot of great things will be done with personalization. I think and I do believe in the economic first mover advantage of AI and generative AI. And if you're still experimenting, I do believe you will be left behind if you're not collaborating. I know one of the other questions we had was, in regards to Disney, the lawsuit with Disney, and another one, and content and copyright. And I think if you looked at all the examples where there is collaboration, those organizations are going much further more quickly. And where there's a lot of resistance, they're becoming irrelevant. So I'm excited about the opportunity. And I guess with an asterisk to say, if you've got your head in the sand and you're not doing things to learn how to take, back to the digital literacy, to take advantage of it, you will be left behind.
Yeah, that's scary. We're still experimenting. Thank you. We got 5 minutes for questions.
Yep, I'll walk around. Anyone? Can you say your name?
Hi, my name is Kaisman. So the question is actually to all of you. I was curious to know how far ahead are you thinking in terms of how shopping or human engagement is going to be shaping up in the future in the agentic world. If you think about personalization, you're optimizing for human touch point, right? So either it's in-store merchandising, online merchandising, ad banners, you're expecting a human to click or to walk into a store. The way the agentic world is evolving, it's almost becoming like there's not going to be a human who's going to make a purchase decision. So it's going to be an agent talking to another agent.
Mm-hmm.
How is your world? Are you thinking about that world? And what does that world look like?
Yeah, great question. Happy to start. The way we're approaching that is building sort of all of our tech stack in sort of a headless microservices environment, so that if the channel is ChatGPT or Perplexity tomorrow and WhatsApp the day after and fill in the blank something we don't know the day after that, we're able to plug in the same logic from a customer identity perspective, assortment from business perspective, marketing, et cetera. So the stack is entirely portable. I think that in 5 years we won't be shopping owned channels like websites and apps like we do today at all. And so I totally agree that we need to be enabled for an agentic future or new channels coming to life. And so we're proactively thinking about that. However, I will say that that's more of a systems and architecture decision, because I think right now, given the pace of the environment and the pace of change in customer expectations and iteration in platforms, we can see maybe at most 3 months ahead, maybe 6 months ahead. So we have a very nimble and agile way to sort of adapt roadmaps as we see the market changing. So I'm not talking about sort of, a 2-year or 5-year vision here. I'm sort of like, if the systems are enabled to be nimble and meet the customer where they are, then we'll be in a good space to adapt to changing markets. We want to drive some of that change, but we know that we're also going to be receiving some of that change and need to be prepared to respond.
So
I have a question. So when it comes to personalization in the AI era, I think like there will be a point where we stop referring to AI as AI and it just becomes like natural. So maybe it's just personalization. And I have a question. When the voices get so realistic and like user data driven experiences become so seamless, do you think there will be an entitlement to the user or the customer if they don't even know it's AI and it sounds like a human and it just always sounds like it's there, like a yes man, like it's there to help them constantly? Like, do you think there'll be an entitlement, there'll be more support tickets because it wasn't personalized and that became so noticeable because personalization just became a standard?
I can take that. I think rather than entitlement, I would use the word reliance. That as we adopt, let's think about if you didn't have AI at your disposal tomorrow for any aspect of your job, how would that feel today versus how is that going to feel in 2 years and how is that going to feel in 5 years? So I think what you're getting at is it starts to become the standard and it's expected. And there may be situations where people don't know the difference between whether or not they're speaking to a human or they're speaking to a machine. I think given the situation, we're going in that direction. The challenge is that the increase in support tickets is because AI isn't smart enough yet. And it's making promises and commitments that it can't actually keep. And there's lawsuits in the world right now about that. Because between customers and large corporations. And so we're not there yet in terms of it being sophisticated enough to be left to its own devices. I think the bigger question kind of ties into the concept of media literacy is what happens when it is left to its own devices and who and what do we hold responsible for that? And that's probably like a bigger societal question versus a marketing question.
Awesome. We have time for one more. Anyone? Oh, one more right here.
With 90% of purchase decisions being made emotionally and AI being so rational, is there a competitive advantage to using AI less when developing your marketing to appeal more emotionally to consumers?
That's a great question. I think for pet value, like a lot of our customers, our ultimate customer is the pets, so the dogs and the cats. So I think when customers walk into our stores, they have a very personalized experience with our ACEs, who we call animal care experts. Again, I think we should start from a perspective of what does the customer need, and then kind of how do we cater to their need. And it could be there's emotions attached to it, but I don't think we should use that to kind of manipulate them into buying. Yeah, so it really starts with what is the customer looking for, and using, I think like a lot of where I see AI is how do we as a business kind of make human decisions as the guardrail to guide AI and not just let it kind of run off into its own thing to drive revenue. Because I do think the human element is super, super important in this new age of AI. And also laddering up to the previous question, it's a tool, the same way that we had internet 20 years ago? Can't remember. And
1996.
1996.
Walmart moved to Canada.
Yeah, and when we had telephone, it's a new tool that we have available, although there's a lot that's unknown about the ways that people can use it. But I think the same thing as when internet came in, we'll kind of start to find where we need to lay the the guardrails, and then that's where laws might come in later on to kind of help protect consumers.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Oh. So I was just going to say, I mean, I think along the lines of guardrails and, 3 years ago when I think it was McKinsey that came out and said AI was going to be a $26 trillion opportunity, every CEO went, you guys figure out how I get a piece of that. And so I was working with organizations back then on thinking about AI in their businesses. And I think organizations have thought deeply around the opportunity for AI in their business, but also the guardrails and the ethics and how they think about it in the context of their customer. And I believe, again, I'm an eternal optimist, that a lot of organizations are trying to do the right thing and put the guardrails in and make sure that really at the end of the day it's a collaboration between human and machine, and the machine is not running the joint. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Go.
I recognize I'm not in retail anymore, but how many purchases do we make are for things that we actually need? That's one. And then two is, how do you wrangle ethics and doing the right thing with stock value and giving investors wins year over year and seeing endless growth when you don't necessarily need more things? How does that balance out with each other?
I think it's I think it might be like a short-term versus long-term question. Because when you're truly kind of delivering value to the customer, on top of the products, you're really driving for a long-term relationship and that LTV, so lifetime value for the customer, instead of like short-term pulses. So like I think like that's where the value piece comes in. It's, everybody can sell the same thing, but what kind of differentiates you versus going to another retailer is in that long-term relationship between you and that brand, and then how they're differentiated from, the competitors.
Yeah, so that's where emotion comes in, right? Is your emotional attachment to a brand versus, if you could go to any store, why wouldn't you just pick the cheapest store? But we pick certain stores because we have an emotional attachment. So I think going back to the question, which I find so interesting, is why do we make purchase decisions in the first place? And where does emotion come into this? And how does AI actually compete with that when so much of what we consume is driven by emotion versus need?
Okay. Did you want to top off? Or?
I'm good. That was a good closer, Sarah. Nice one.
Thank you, Sarah, for closing us. Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we're right on time. You're welcome to obviously help yourself to more food in the back here and coffee. We have the space till about 10:30. I forgot to say this earlier, but when you got your ticket and registered, I took that as your consent that you might be filmed. So if you don't want to be filmed or you don't want to, please let Eddie know. And then we'll try to find your face amongst all the things we are taking.
Vague consent is
Vague
going to
consent.
end.
No, explicit. It's explicit. And then just a quick tee up, because we're doing these in the form of a series. We started this earlier this fall as an experiment, and clearly thank you all for being here, because I think we're getting quite a bit of traction. So we're doing our last event of the year on November 12th. It's going to be hosted at the Soho House, and it's going to be very tight. So if you haven't registered, please do. We are going to push that out very soon, but we have half the capacity. So if you know you're going to be in town and you're caring about the topics, let us know. And again, thank you, Mary and team from the Intuit team. Please eat the food. We don't like to waste. All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, panelists and moderators.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody.